Good evening, everybody. This is your host, Folk, and welcome back to another episode of the Channel 256 News brought to you by Bitcoin Mining World. The date is November 2nd. Bitcoin currently sitting above $110,000 at $110,299. Not looking too shabby, all things considered. You guys may be asking yourself, where you been? I doubt you are, but in case you are, we have just we've decided to move these instead of being a daily upload where we're covering the daily news. We're going to move them to a weekly production where we're just going over all of everything that's happened within the past week. So these are either going to be going out on Saturday or Sunday. I would assume most of them will be coming out on Sunday during the evening, closer to 7 or 8 p.m. Central. But we have made that move, so I did want to inform everybody. But all things considered, nothing too crazy has happened. I mean, if you're looking just at the weekly chart, yeah, we're down 4%. But being down 4% in crypto is nothing to write home about, you know? I mean, looking over the last month, we've just been ranging since that past liquidation. It really that range behavior most of the time after a huge liquidation like this, and then going into a range like this, what typically happens is just a breakdown to the downside, which is not ideal. Maybe some of you guys play around with altcoins. That's not personally us or our brand here, but there is some historical precedent for altcoins to be able to outperform Bitcoin, and then but with during that time once Bitcoin does break down. So maybe there's some plays you guys can make there if you guys are mining any shit coins at home, and are not just immediately rotating them in. I know a lot of people try and take a small moonshot bag, which is fun. It's fun if you look at it from a gambling perspective. But if you are doing those altcoin miners, not financial advice, but what I do for mine personally is rotate those over into BTC daily through something like Zerg Pool, something along those lines. I believe Zerg Pool shut down now. Honestly, I haven't mined some shit coins in quite a while. But looking over here on Coin Wars, we've got the Bitcoin hash rate up to 1.289 zettahash. Kind of crazy to see looking at the weekly chart. I mean, you don't see anything too special. However, looking at the difficulty, you can see there was a huge difficulty adjustment moving from 146T all the way up to 155T. So pretty big move over there. And you can see it correlates exactly when we're looking at price per petahash over here on Luxor's hash rate index. But prices dropped from about $49 on October 26th per petahash down to 45, which may not seem like a lot, but I mean, when you're running 1,000 exahash and you're talking, the numbers add up, guys. The electricity rates aren't going down currently. If anything, they're going up. I know a lot of people's full-time curtailments during the summertime are completely over now. I know mine personally are up on site, but that could lead to more people plugging in and be part of the reason why we saw this increase in difficulty. But seeing that immediate adjustment over there on the hash rate after that, I mean, we're popped back up to that 1.3, and now we're back down to, I mean, just under that currently. So we'll end up seeing what we see over the next couple weeks. But if we're going to take a look at traditional finance this week, I mean, you wouldn't think anything too crazy. I mean, the Dow went off, set new all-time highs. S&P went off and set new all-time highs, but everything kind of closed not too much higher than where it started. The Dow Jones over the last 5 days was up 150 points. The NASDAQ up 186, not even a percent up to the upside. S&P only up 17 points or 0.25% over the last 5 days. And then the Russell over the last 5 days actually down 1.89, which kind of goes against what I was talking about in the beginning of the video, where you may see some altcoins start outperforming Bitcoin in the short term once it does finally break to the downside, if that is what we end up seeing. I do want to say I am still extremely hopeful for a bull case. I just, at this point, I'm not nearly as bullish as I was previously after that liquidation event. Everything really is lining up a lot like 2021, ending to its bull cycle. So seeing these things isn't necessarily like the best, you know. Just want to, quick disclaimer, you know, just want to throw that out there. I personally have not made any moves yet. I may make some moves on a retrace to the upside if we get closer to that $122,000 range. I may start playing around a little bit with my portfolio and consolidating more things into stable coins. as gross as that is to say out loud. But moving over from stocks, let's get back to Bitcoin. From Cointelegraph, we've got Bitcoin ends October in the red, and BNB activity spikes October in charts. I didn't pull up the BNB chart, but it is actually down on the month as well. However, it does seem like chain activity has increased over there, which honestly doesn't mean much. I think if you've seen any sort of alt season here recently, it's been in the privacy coin sector and coins like Zcash, Bitcoin SV, Monero has even gotten a little bit of a pump out of it, but that's really the only sector of crypto that has gone on any type of run since that liquidation event. I mean, looking over here at Bitcoin, we're still at $110,000, and on the monthly chart, we're zoomed out now, from all the way up from 122. So we did in the month. We ended October, the most historically bullish month ever. I think there's only been 4 or 5 months in the last, or 4 or 5 Octobers in the last 15 years that have been red, and this year just so happened to be one of them. However, the Novembers after a historically bearish October normally are decent, but it doesn't mean that we're going to be going off setting new all-time highs. So I don't see where any of these influencer types or chart analysts on Twitter, YouTube, or whatever are getting these crazy numbers. Like 150 isn't insane. At this point, it's getting crazier, but the crazy numbers like 200, 250, 300K. I mean, if somebody can show me something that genuinely makes sense on the charts and they have historical precedent to display that and what they're comparing it to, they're using past fractals to get that info, I'd love to see it, and I'd love to show it on the channel. If any of you guys have it, share it down below, post a Twitter link or something. I'd be happy to go over it. But I mean, I just can't find anything, and I'm not a technical analyst myself to speak. I mean, I'm just a Bitcoin mining operator on a semi-large site. So I buy and do nothing is my overall strategy. DCA in, DCA out once it's high. I haven't personally purchased anything in the last year and 4 months ish, but just for full disclosure. But we're getting to the point where I was hoping to be able to start scaling out of some of these positions that I've got myself into. And right now, there's not really enough information. The fact that the Bitcoin dominance has not dropped yet is still insane. Historically, that's something that has to happen to signify the end of a bull market and before we enter into a bear. So maybe there is some sort of crazy alt season that comes out of here. I'm not going to get much out of that personally, but I'm sure quite a few of you guys out there who have continued mining some of y'all's shit coins are going to reap some of the benefits from it. At least I hope so, for your guys' sake. Over here from the Business Wire, we've got something pretty crazy. I'm sure most of you guys have already seen it, but Core Scientific announces a termination of merger agreement with CoreWeave. So Austin, Texas, Core Scientific, a leader digital infrastructure and high density collusion services and digital asset mining, previously announced at a very special meeting of Core Scientific stockholders, the company did not receive the votes necessary to approve the previously announced merger agreement with CoreWeave. Pretty crazy. They were coming out swinging with that as a public announcement. Nothing too crazy on the side of their stock, but wild to see nonetheless. Not too sure why they didn't want it. Maybe it's just some hard through and through Bitcoiners that didn't like the idea of moving over to more HPC with CoreWeave, because that's a big part of what they're doing over there. But you're seeing more and more of these larger and even smaller companies, but especially some of the larger publicly traded companies, taking some of that power that they have currently allocated to Bitcoin, getting rid of that Bitcoin mining infrastructure and building their own makeshift data centers over there. I mean, as long as you can get the backup power, the redundancy in it, and the immediate failovers, I mean, there's really no reason not to. When it comes to when it comes to shareholder prices, like what it means for their stock, it does make more sense to go to HPC just because the ROI is quite a bit quicker over there, and that's what banks are giving out loans for. I know, like I was saying, a lot of those people are calling for that 250, 300K, but banks aren't loaning out hundreds of millions of dollars to Bitcoin miners right now to be buying hardware or to develop infrastructure specifically for Bitcoin mining. That's just not what we're seeing. Over here from Cointelegraph, we've got some kind of nuts from some state state level stuff. We got New Hampshire Senate stalls crypto mining deregulation bill after split vote. Lawmakers opted to study the proposal further, following a wave of public concern over plans to loosen local controls on crypto mining in the state. A vote on the Senate Commerce Committee bill aimed to deregulating crypto mining in New Hampshire was split on Tuesday after senators reported the public feedback on the bill had surged since it was last debated. After being deadlocked twice, once on advancing the bill and again on rejecting it, the committee ultimately voted 4-2 to send the measure further review for internal study. As first reported by the New Hampshire Bulletin, House Bill 639 would prevent municipalities from creating restrictions on crypto mining, such as rules around electricity use or noise, as well as prohibit state local authorities from levying taxes unique to digital assets. So that's like the biggest hit right there. I mean, if you guys are setting up Bitcoin mining sites, please try and be considerate over your neighbors. I mean, we've ran into that multiple times at sites where you try and set up a little bit too close to the house, and if you don't have any sort of soundproofing, you can even set up old hay bales. They end up getting infested or whatever. But just getting some general fence screening works wonders. I mean, if you're a couple 100 yards, even 100 yards out, you'd be surprised how much noise dampening you get off of something as simple as a fence screen. So I mean, I do understand some of the concern there, especially if some of the people within those districts are living next to them and they don't have any sort of. I'm sure that's one of the big holdups, but kind of crazy to see that this stuff like this is still going on during the government shutdown. Hopefully we end up seeing some more regulation coming out for Bitcoin and crypto general asset class. Once the government shutdown is over, more ETFs opened up for some shit coins, which I'm sure some of the Bitcoin maxis out there aren't too thrilled about, but really it's just more acknowledgement to the industry. It's more verification of the industry, more trust, which is all leads back good for Bitcoin. Something cool from the block. We've got Canon's Japan deal makes first state-linked Bitcoin mining project in the country. So Canon linked a deal on Thursday to supply Bitcoin mining rigs to a major Japanese utility for a grid stability research project, marking the country's first publicly disclosed state-linked Bitcoin mining initiative. So we finally have states, countries starting to mine Bitcoin on their own. This for grid stability purposes. I mean, this is huge. It makes sense. There's already Bitcoin miners all across the United States that are doing just that, stabilizing the grids by putting up Bitcoin mines in slower rural areas where they just do not have that stability whatsoever. It's huge for the smaller local economies, and it's awesome that states are finally starting to take some of this stuff seriously and get involved in a real level. Over here from the Miner Mag, we've got CleanSpark announces land. CleanSpark acquires land and power in Texas for AI data center push beyond Bitcoin. So this goes back to what we were just saying, but CleanSpark has acquired rights to 271 acres of land in Austin County, Texas, along with 285 megawatts of power supply agreements in its latest pivot for building HPC and AI data center infrastructure. The company said on Wednesday that the transactions would support the development in the next generation data center campus designed to serve AI, cloud, and enterprise workloads, underscoring CleanSpark's diversification beyond Bitcoin mining. Once again, I'm sure a few Bitcoin maxis are going to have something negative to say about that, but anything that keeps these Bitcoin miners running and securing the network, I think, is overall a good thing. And if pivoting some of their resources over to AI and HPC is going to benefit their shareholders, it's going to ease their operation costs so that they can continue running some of their Bitcoin miners during unprofitable times. I say more power to them. It's only good for the network. It's only good for the industry. You've got to remember that most of these guys that have started these companies were early Bitcoin adopters. So they've got a special place for it in their heart. They're not just going to completely get rid of it. And it also has a symbiotic relationship with HPC and AI, the cloud infrastructure. I mean, you can use it as a giant battery, as a failover switch. You can turn those miners to sleep within seconds with aftermarket firmware and utilizing management software like Foreman. So it's huge to be able to to bring these two industries together. They really do go together like peanut butter and jelly. I personally am a huge fan of it. Just opens up more opportunities to the staffing on those sites and everything. And most of the time, these people that are working at Bitcoin mining sites are not these crazy tech gurus. They're just average people that are living in these rural communities. So any type of extra, I mean, that's my personal boat where I'm coming from, and I know that's the same for a lot of other sites because I've talked to quite a few. I'd say at least 40 to 50 other Bitcoin mining operators who are in just that same boat that I am. So personally, I love to see it. I love to see all sorts of growth for these larger mining companies. It's great for the shareholders, great for the employees that have options. Yeah, it's just great. Let's go ahead and end off things today how we normally do. I know it's been a whole week, which is kind of crazy since we were doing these daily for about a month and a half. But yeah, let's hit it with a quick refresh and see where Bitcoin ended off. We're down about 280 bucks, so nothing too crazy. Just staying within that range, guys. If you all did enjoy this, if you guys, I'd love to know what you guys think. If you made it this far, I doubt too many of you guys did, but if you did, how would you guys prefer some of these longer form content videos? If this video is a little over 16 minutes, previously our longest video is 10, 11 minutes, if that, but taking the time to go over some more important stories that are going on over the whole week instead of just those daily ones where we get stuff missed. Be curious on your guys' thoughts. If you are new to the channel, go ahead and hit subscribe and that noti bell so you'll always be notified when we're uploading new content and going live. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.